Welcome to our third and final Q&A for this year's film festival. We're doing the animation strand today and we've got 7 lovely films to talk about. I've been personally overseeing a lot of the animation stuff. My name's Lauren and I'm a programmer on the film course. We're going to be asking questions. The comments are open to anyone who wants to ask questions. We are more likely going to take them at the end, but put them in whenever we've got someone checking. So should we just get straight into asking questions? I believe the people that created Resting Fog wanted to go first. So Nicolette, would you like to come in, please?
Hi, my name is Nicolette Fabian. I directed Resting Fog, but my English is not very strong. My translator is my boyfriend, Zeno.
Hi guys. I have my limits, I try by myself.
Great, well, we'll do our best as well. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into animation?
Kapcsolatban az animációval, meg mesélj kicsit.
Hát kicsiként így érdekelt, hogy hogyan mozognak ezek a tévében, igazából ilyen technikai érdeklődésem volt, és akkor itt az egyetemen megbevezettek.
First, as a child, she really enjoyed the technical aspects of animation, and she really liked drawing, and that's basically it. At university, we are from Moholy University of Art and Design. That's where we first met animation, basically. First made animations.
Bless.
Yeah.
So you've submitted your piece, Resting Fog. It's a beautiful piece, may I add. Very, very aesthetically pleasing. We've noticed that it's more picture-based. Personally, we couldn't get a story behind it, but we noticed that there was a corrosive element as the film went on. So what was your inspiration? What's like the storyline going on there?
Mi volt a fő inspiráció?
Jó, hát a mentális folyamatok leképezése érdekelt, az emlékezés, és ez egy ilyen kísérlet erre, hogy ezt megjelenítsem.
She wanted to depict mental processes on film, and she's really interested in the topic of remembrance. And this film was an experimental film trying to depict the process of recalling and dissolving a memory. So it's not a narrative structure, it's just a kind of a mood, vibe, feeling.
Így hogyan torzulnak ezek az emlékek, hogy
Yes, and in the film, as you can see that how these elements of memory dissolve, slowly disintegrate towards the end, and that was the main goal to yep. That's my English limit.
That's great. That's definitely not what I was expecting, but that's lovely to hear. So there was a very bold colour scheme going throughout. It's very cohesive. Is there any reasoning behind the colour scheme, or just like the colours?
Colorpalettának?
Ja, hát a naplement és árnyalatok a kedvenceim, szóval az adta meg.
Well, sunset is her favorite part of the day. It's kind of mystical, it's kind of moody, and she grew up at Lake Balaton by the waterfront, so the water is a key inspiration or element in the film.
That's gorgeous. I love sunsets too. I'm a big fan of sunsets. Another thing that we loved about the film was the music choice and the sound effects and stuff like that. What was your process with that? Was it made before or after? Like, did you do it to the music?
Hang.
A hang az egyszerre fejlődött a filmmel, egy kicsit álomszerű, torzulásos, mégis ilyen nagyon meditatív zenét akartam.
It evolved simultaneously with the picture. we had a friend who made the sound design and the music as well, and we wanted the music to be and the sound to be really atmospheric, and we gave her a few keywords, and he pretty much nailed it in the first time. So yes.
That's great. We love to hear it. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with your film that you wanted to put across?
Szeretném még valamit mondani?
Hát igen, hogy szerettem volna ezzel a megkönnyebbülést. Hogy feloldást a nézőbe, hogy elengedjen egy emléket.
Okay, I try my best to translate this one. Her main goal was to give the feeling throughout this film for the viewer. She wants the viewer to sense the feeling of relief, of some kind of relief when she or he watches the film, that he or she can let go of something in some way in themselves, and that was the main goal here.
Well, that's great. So obviously we loved it. Have you got any more plans for entering your film anywhere else? Is there anywhere people can watch it after our lovely film festival, or is it just a one-time thing?
Fogod még nevezni valahol, felrakod-e valahol?
Ja, igen, hát még egy évig biztosan.
Well, for a year from now, it will be going around in film festivals. It's been on several so far, and after that, I guess it will be on Vimeo one day, or something like that. Yes.
That's great. Well, we look forward to seeing it in other places. We've been very thankful for having it on ours, and thank you so much for joining us on our Q&A today.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Bye-bye. So, as no one else volunteered, I'm going off of my list. So the next person I have to ask questions is the makers of the stream. So if Debbie, if you're around, would you like to join in, please?
Lauren, I don't think she's heard.
No, I don't think she has either.
Debbie, actually, Lauren, may you take this opportunity perhaps to ask everybody to introduce their film and themselves, so that that the audience knows who is around, because I don't know if well, it might be an idea. Just if and then we can go back to Debbie if she can work. If she can.
Okay. Well.
So I know the filmmakers of Resting Fog already spoke to us. We can speak again afterwards, but yeah, you can take to the others, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Well, whoever would like to go next, feel free.
Can you hear me?
Right. So.
Can you hear me?
Who is talking?
It will be Alicia.
Oh, great, Alicia. Great. So
Okay.
tell us about your film, and then Lauren will ask questions, but tell us about who you are and what your film is. Yeah.
So my name's Alicia Fredia Alvarez Jonsson, but most people just call me Alicia, and I am the creator of the short film Runner. So I'm from Norway, but I made this film over in the UK, so at University for the Creative Arts, specifically the Farnham campus. And yeah, it was my grad film.
Great. It was a lovely film. I loved it because personally I have worked in a dead-end job like that, so I could relate. It was a very relatable film. So was this based off of your own experience working in the industry?
Yes and no. For me, I only did a summer job a couple of years back, but it was the observations I made and the people I met working there very much were the main source of inspiration. And yeah, there's just something especially about the restaurant industry and just the chaos of that just felt very animatable, to put it that way.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I've got stories for days from when I used to work those sort of experiences. So with your whole process, I'd say your customers come across very abstract. Was there a reason for that, or any choices that went behind that?
Yeah, so that was definitely a choice. I kind of wanted to do a somewhat minimalist style, partly because it's very practical when you're the only one animating. But I also very much wanted there to be a visual difference between the guests and the staff, where, the staff, each of them, they have uniforms, but they very much have individual designs and traits, because these are the people that you actually work with day to day. And this is the point of view of an actual staff member. Whereas with the guests, you see hundreds of people every day. You're not going to recognize most of the guests. And so I kind of really wanted to emulate that in the style, but also to really find a comedic sort of angle to it, with just how chaotic it gets, to really get those scribbles out and the print color, and how with the print I sort of had this residue from where they left behind the dirty dishes and dirty tables.
That's great. Your sound design was another really good one. We were wondering whether
I tried very hard. Thank you.
We were wondering whether you'd done it in a calf itself, or if you'd built up your sound. What was your sound process?
So it was very much a process, to put it that way. It was possible in my degree to potentially hire a sound editor, but frankly, I was too lazy to find someone, so I was stuck with it myself. So it's very much a combination of some things I recorded myself. Obviously, the voice acting is done with voice actors, and other than that, there is a lot of sound snap and a lot of free sound, and just really working with that mix. And luckily with tutors as well, we had an amazing sound technician back in Farnham that really helped make it feel at least a lot less amateurish in its quality.
Oh, bless. Personally, sound is one of the things I struggle with on my own project, so I can completely get you. So is there anything else you'd like to portray about your film, the meaning, or why you did it, why you picked it?
I suppose sort of what I feel is the theme of the story. It very much is a tale about a really bad day, and I don't believe that has never been done before, but I do feel there are a lot of stories out there that are about that moment when you break free. These sorts of days are usually part of what's it called again, that sort of montage. And so I really wanted to make a film about those days when you don't break free, you don't achieve your dream, you really just have to keep going. And yeah, about finding the value in portraying that, and the fact that those days are part of the process, and whether you like it or not, to put it that way.
That's great. So have you got any future plans for Runner? Are you submitting it to other festivals, or what's going on?
Yeah, so it did have its premiere in January, so hopefully it's going to be touring a lot more festivals. I do have a known screening, which would be at the Guildford Boiler Room. There's this lovely screener, Chica Spaniard Films, who does all of these different screenings throughout the year. So there will be another UK slot for those who are living in the UK.
Well, that's great. We're very happy that we were able to be part of your process, and we're very thankful that you submitted it. So thank you very much. And it's been lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you too. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Right, so that was Runner. So we've had 2 of our lovely films. Would anyone like to volunteer to go next? Or should I call someone else?
I can go. Oh.
Oh,
Hello? Can you hear me, or? Oh.
Hi. So you are the creator of Home, am I right?
Yes. I'm Laura Vampareis eigenlijk. And I made Home.
That's great. Would you like to tell us more about yourself, more about your film?
Yes, I've graduated from the Ritz School of Arts in Brussels, and this was my master's film. Which, yes, it took 1.5 years to complete, but I'm very happy it's completed now.
It's a very cute film, and I'm not surprised it took so long. It's very well done.
Oh, thank you.
I loved the character design. They're very, very cute. What was your inspiration behind the little characters?
Well, since I'm from Belgium, I grew up with things like the Smurfs, kabouters, call them gnomes and stuff. I've always been interested in those little creatures who live in a big world.
Adorable. And like, if I remember correctly, he's a little like moss ball. That's what I took from it. Is that what you got inspiration from?
Yes. Actually, in my second year, we had an assignment where we had to create a character, and that's where it was created, in the little character creation workshop. And when I created it, I immediately decided that this creature is gonna be part of my my master's film.
That's very adorable. And the little guy, is he like a snail, slug? Like what?
Yes, an amalgamation, how you call it, like a mix of snail, a worm, dog-like thing. I kind of based it on my own dogs.
Oh, bless. That's so sweet. Well, they're both very adorable. It's such a sweet little film. What was your like inspiration behind the story and the plot design?
Mostly children's films. I kind of wanted to base it on things that I grew up on and how I felt as a kid watching those little children's movies. And back in the day, animation has always been seen as something childlike, but I always had that question, if it's for children, who makes it? Children? No, that can't be right. And yes, that's why I wanted to be one that created little films for kids.
That's adorable.
Yes.
I was going to point out that it did seem very childlike, so I think you're on the right path there for sure. We loved it. One of our favorite parts of it was the glowing cage. We think that cave. We thought you did that very well. Would you like to talk us more about the process of actually drawing or making those scenes?
Yes, well, I think I started like everyone else with a storyboard. Then I made some sketches of how I wanted to look, some color boards of what the color was going to be in the end. And then I started working in TV Paint to draw the backgrounds. And then afterwards, I put it in After Effects, each individual part, so you can see like little crystals shake and the background shake individually to give it the feeling of like an earthquake and stuff.
Well, it's very well done. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your piece? Like anything you wanted to put across?
Well, I'm very grateful to the people who made this sound. Tutu Tango was the group. They're a group of former students from my school, the Ritz School of Arts, and without them, this piece wouldn't have been complete. So I thank them with all of my heart.
That's super sweet. So in that case, I guess you worked with a fair few people. So how was that collaboration process for you? Did you make everything first and then work with the team, or was it step by step?
Well, I've started working and then started searching during the working progress, but I couldn't find anyone. In our school, we also have a department of sound students, but those were already busy with their end of the year works.
And so I was struggling a little bit, and I posted a plea for help on the school's Facebook page, and luckily they came through. It was very new for me to work, with a lot of people, since every time I made a little animation, it was on my own. So it was very new, but yeah, I think it worked out in the end.
It definitely worked out in the end. It's a lovely little film. Have you got any future plans for Home? Are you putting it on other festival circuits?
Not at the moment, but after this festival, I will be putting it on my personal YouTube, so everyone can see it.
Oh, bless. Well, if anyone wants to watch it, it's up on our website until Friday, and then after that, everyone can follow you and figure out where to go after that. But thank you very much for joining us today. We're very happy that we've had you on. Yeah.
And thank you for inviting me. Right.
Thank you very much. Right. Who would like to go next? Or am I calling someone up?
I think Debbie volunteered.
To go.
Debbie
Sorry.
volunteered from the stream.
Debbie volunteered?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Hang on. There we go. Right, found you. Right. Hi. Would you like to introduce yourself and your film?
Okay. My name is Debbie. I'm from Ecuador. I'm 23, and last year I graduated from university. I studied digital animation, and this film, the stream, is my final project of my career. Mm-hmm.
That's great. It's a lovely film. You took inspiration from a poem, I believe. Would you like to talk about the significance of that poem? Was there a reason you chose it?
Yeah, I always love to how animation makes like mixed with music or poetry makes the piece like more like fulfills the piece and makes it more like visible. So I took this poem from this poetress. She's from Uruguay. Um, I came across with this poetress because I read from her story, and she was like really young, and she was killed really young. So I was inspired by her story, and I wanted to like give her a voice with animation, and so her poems will be visible to other people.
We noticed, like, one of the things that stood out about your film was the transitions between each of the animated aspects. How much planning did that take, and like what went behind the process for that? Because they were very smooth.
Thank you. Okay, I always loved the morphing animation. So when I started this project, um, I really wanted to use this in my film. So yeah, I knew that I had to do all these transitions, and it was kind of messy at the first time because I couldn't like separate from it by scenes because everything was like a little bit connected. So I tried to start with the character, and then like trying to um, in the storyboard like separate from scenes, and put like an object into each scene, and then try to connect them with the transitions. But I knew that in each scene I wanted to have like a specific object. For example, in the first one was the snake, then turn into the flower, the hands, butterflies, and those things that kind of make me easily to connect between scenes.
Well, you did a very good job doing that, and it worked out very well. The character style is fairly unique, and I was wondering if there was any inspiration behind your character style, like your whole drawing style.
Yeah, I really love Adventure Time. So everything I drew when I was a kid was Jake and Finn and all the characters from Adventure Time. So I kind of mm, took inspiration from that, and also a lot of um, animators that I follow, like Beon. I know that a lot of people know her, and also Jamie Wolf. That she's also an animator that works with morphing and has these like bright and colorful characters that are like flowy, and yeah, that was my inspiration.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about your film that we haven't put forward yet?
Mm, I want to talk about the sound design because I had like the idea in my head of how I wanted to sound, but since I don't do music or things like that, I couldn't like express. But I had a friend, and he was the one who made the sound design, and he like captured everything I had in my head and put it on the sound. So it was like I imagined at the first in my head. So I'm really, really happy for that because that adds a lot to the film. And I want to thank him. He's Mateo Gaibor.
Oh, bless, that's so sweet. Well, I'm glad that you were able to work together to create such an amazing piece. Is there any future for your film? Are you putting it in any other festivals?
uh, yes, I tried to apply to online festivals. I would like to try to apply to more online festivals, but I think that since my it's like almost 9 months that my film was released, so maybe for the next month I would like to put it on my YouTube or Vimeo so people can watch
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for submitting it to our festival. It was a lovely piece to
it.
watch. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right. Now got to figure out who I've interviewed and who I haven't. But yeah, in this time,
There's there's out of order, there's small hours, and there is in between.
Yeah, and
So you take the pick. You take your pick. Yeah.
They're all on the same page. If anyone would like to volunteer themselves first, if not, I'm going to pick on someone. No? Okay, well, the first person on my page is the in-between. So, Juanse, would you like to join us?
Yeah, of course. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, fine.
That's great. I can see you've got it on in the background as well.
Yeah, I got something from my film, The Monster, just behind me. So yeah, I'm Juanse. I'm the director and animator in The In-Between. It's a short film in which I wanted to showcase the monster of animation, because I think animation needed one. We make a lot of beautiful things. It's an amazing job, but it also has its scary things, and usually we don't showcase those. So I wanted to create a monster that embody all those things.
We did love the horror aspect. It's a unique point in a lot of the films that we got submitted. So what sort of inspired you to make this sort of horror aspect in your piece?
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of horror. I love horror movies, and I always thought that animation has this really big potential to showcase horror, especially in stop motion. Usually, you see horror animated pieces in stop motion. So I wanted to challenge myself in thinking, how can I make something as horrible as some of these textures in stop motion, but into the animation. And yeah, that was my first motivation. I also was inspired by all those short stories like creepypastas that are around the internet. I love those because they feel so mundane, so just like little stories around the internet that can happen to any normal people. So I wanted to do what horror things can happen to an animator, for example, and yeah, that gave me that inspiration to try to make this experiment, to create a monster for this job, because there are monsters for many other jobs like doctors or psychiatrists, or movie makers have their own ghosts represented in movies. So yeah, I want to like take this challenge and make a monster for animation.
Well, it worked out very well because it was a great piece. Personally, I can relate to staying up at stupid o'clock in the morning trying to get my movies done. So we were wondering if it was sort of like if it was based on real life, like if you've had that pressure and fear of a deadline and you've just kept yourself going.
Yeah, of course. It was totally based on not only in my experiences, but also experiences of colleagues and friends. Because we all have this moment of pushing ourselves to the limit to try to reach a deadline. We stayed late in the evenings. We cut off sleep. Sometimes we cut off food and social life. It's very common in our profession because it takes so much time to make what we do, and we usually get so invested because we love to do this. That's why we are here. That's why we take this crazy job of working hours to make just 1 second. So it's very common to lose conscious of our own needs because we want this piece that we make with our hands to represent us, to showcase how we are, how we look, and we even sacrifice our own selves to make our piece be better than us. So yeah, it's totally inspired in real life, and I think we deserve this monster hunting us in these late hours of the night.
Bless. Well, yeah, totally, 100%. I can get where you're coming from. I feel the same way about my work. But when it comes to your monster, you chose a lot of like different drawing styles and stuff to represent it. Is that to sort of show everyone, like, so it's not singled out to the one person? What was the creative choice there?
Yeah, exactly. The idea behind the multiple drawings was that, yeah, this monster is created by all our anxieties, all these shared anxieties we share as animators. It's not a particular monster for this particular girl in the film. It's a monster that hands us all, and it's created like with all those scratch out drawings, all those in betweens that we didn't like, or frame that we didn't like, and we tear off. That is what creates this monster. It's just the like representation of all those insecurities we have, all those things we didn't like, we tear off, we try to perfect our movie, and all the things we discard in the process of perfecting our creation. That creates this monster. So yeah, that's why it has a lot of drawings of different people's different animators around the world.
Well, when it comes to the storyline, when we watched it in our class, a lot of people had a lot of different opinions on how the film actually ended. Some people think that the main character was killed by a monster. Some people think they fainted of exhaustion. Would you like to explain what happens in the end, or is it a secret?
Well, I try to leave it a little bit open-ended. I like a lot when endings make you think a little bit, like what was the real outcome here. I left a little bit of little hints about the ending that I'm preparing or trying to showcase, but I really wanted this like question at the end of what really happened. And my my little hints in the film was that she had this fracture in her wrist. She really pushed herself that much further in her work that she did have a problem in her wrist, and she could not continue making the work. Her hand was totally passed up. You can think that it was the in between, the monster break her hand, or it was herself pushing herself to the limit, or it was both, because the monster is also herself, all of her anxieties and fears and these unhealthy behaviors of pushing ourselves too far.
Well, that's great. You've made some lovely points about your film. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to put across?
I think we touched the main things. I don't think I have a specific thing about. Just to mention, the monster was also a rotoscopy. I don't know if it was that evident, but I tried to make the monster look unnatural. And sometimes when you rotoscope, it looks bad, because we are animators. We love to create this exaggerated movement. And when we see this rotoscope, it jumps to us visually because it's too natural, but it's unnatural in an animated environment. So yeah, I tried to make the monster like a rotoscope, so it looks like bad, out of place, totally not of this world.
Well, that's great. Is there any future plans for the In-Between? Are you putting it in other festivals?
It has already gone around to some festivals here and there. Its round is almost over, so it may be online maybe around October, because it's a nice month to put horror things online. So yeah.
Well, that's great, and if anyone wants to watch it, up on our site until Friday. So thank you very much for joining in. Thank you so much for letting us use your film as well. It was a great film.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Right, so we have 2 more films, and then we're going to open it up to a more general debate. We've got Out of Order and Small Hours. So would anyone like to volunteer themselves?
We can go. Out of Order team.
Great. Hang on one second. There we go. Right. So as there's 3 of you, I'm guessing there's going to be a bit of a slightly longer introduction. So would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Starting from.
So I'm Mariana Sandoval.
I'm Charlie Ledwidge.
And I'm Holly Hunt. That's it. That's
We are
right.
universities. We are students from the University of Hertfordshire.
Mhm.
It's our last year.
Yeah, we haven't graduated yet. We're on our 3rd year. On the brink of graduating.
And I am to believe there's one of you missing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sam Stevens.
Yeah, he's like in the exact same like position, so
Yes.
not really very much good.
Just had bigger things going on, I guess, today.
Yes. Well, Out of Order was one of my personal favourites, and I'm very glad I got it included. It very nearly didn't. I will tell you that now. I've argued your case a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But I am in love with the film, and it's been doing very well on our website. But I'm guessing there is a lot more of you to promote it. Yeah, well done on all of the traction it's getting. It's done great for our side of things as well. So there's always that. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about your collaboration process, as there's so many of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, basically, with for me personally as well, this is like the first fully polished project I've ever done, because before coming to university, I personally had never done any sort of animation. And we've got a very busy course, so tackling this first project, the lecturers always say, you know, you're going to have a much easier time if you do things as like a group. And not a lot of people want to, because obviously if they've got a particular idea, they want to stick to their guns and do whatever they feel like doing. But we just thought, no, we'll make our lives easier. We'll get together and make this project so we can handle it a bit better, basically.
We just like doing silly cartoons and animating them.
We all liked each other's style, so we were very psyched to work with each other.
It literally was like, you asked me, and then I was like, oh, I said, what was sound? It's like, oh, okay, this brings sound on. And then Maria's like, can I wait to you? Like,
yeah, we were in the same room, and Mariana was like on the other side, and just like, oh, can I join? And we're like, yeah, sure. let's just go for it. So, yeah.
Well, that's sweet. There's a lot of different animation styles, I'd say. It's a little bit mixed media off of my loose knowledge of animation. Was anyone responsible for any certain parts? Like, was that a creative choice to take different people's sort of preferred mediums and combine them?
Yeah, kind of, because none of us were like specialists in any way. No one was like, I like to do backgrounds, I like to do animation. We could all do a mix of everything. So we actually just split the shots between us, like 6 shots amongst all of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did all the parts within those shots, so the backgrounds, the animation and cleanup and everything. Though the one thing we kept consistent was we used our iPads to make it instead of animation program, just because we were just so used to it. So that was the one consistent thing we did. So we're like, yeah, sure, why not? So that was definitely an interesting approach.
I think if you're like referring to the live action part with the hand washing, it's like a mixed media type thing. I think that only came from the fact that like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if like there was just like a live action like shot of someone's hands in the film? Like, yeah.
I took it from SpongeBob, because they'd have scenes where like an actual hand would come in to the frame and squish a character or something like that. So we just thought it would be quite funny.
Well, it was quite funny. I did have a little bit of a laugh. So you just mentioned SpongeBob. Was there any like other big inspirations behind this piece, especially the looping aspect? That was quite unique in our submissions. Not a lot of them looped like that.
That idea came from our teacher, because we didn't know how to end it. And
we were stumped for ages, and then Sean, one of our lecturers, just kind of walked by and said, "What if it was just, I don't know, repeating?" And we thought, that's perfect. So we could just reuse the animation in the beginning, slap it on the end, and make it look very clever.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like influences, what do you say, like Smiling Friends, definitely, like that had just come out.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's like the only jokes I know.
And then just cartoons in general, like the sort you'd find on Cartoon Network, all the slapsticky fun sort of.
It has a lot of UPA style influence, especially because it saves time.
And we went for that as well, just because it would be a bit easier to do the backgrounds. But yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm not going to lie, I did suspect Smiling Friends, and I'm so glad that I wasn't wrong, because there were people that had no clue what I was going on about, and I was like, no, it's definitely inspired by that. Giving myself a bonus point there. So is there anything you wanted to say? Like, is there a message behind your cartoon or any deeper meaning?
It could be. In all honesty, we just thought it would be a good, because like the idea of having something be quite montagey meant we could come up with loads of different things, and it will work in the context of the film. So we can come up with loads of different gags and jokes or visuals that we like, and by using this like lift that goes to different floors, we could pretty much do whatever we wanted, basically. But yeah, it kind of spun out as like this kind of message about how difficult it is to find work.
Even though we did not intend that like at all. I think it literally was like, oh, let's just make something that's funny, because everyone's doing like deep, crazy, emotional, like really interesting stuff. It's like
more sophisticated films with broader meanings and stuff like that. But we just thought it'd be a fun idea, and yeah, it turned out to be more retrospective than we thought it would be.
Well, that's great. Is there any future for Out of Order? Are you submitting it to other places?
We hope so.
Maybe. We're surprised we're here, to be honest, and from what you said as well, just
Thank
barely.
you very much.
So thank you. But it's up on YouTube, so maybe if anyone else would be interested in showing it,
Maybe not
They're
there.
welcome.
maybe. Who
Well,
knows?
That's great, and I wish you all the best of luck. It's been lovely having you on, and it's been lovely having your film in as part of our festival as well.
Yeah, thank you very
Thanks so
much.
much.
Thank
It's
you.
been lovely
Thank
being here.
Right, so our last personal Q&A will be for small hours, I believe, unless I have missed anyone out. I don't think I have. No, just small hours. So who have we got on for small hours?
Hello. This is Marta Snezik, and the co-director of Small Hours.
I don't know if it's just on my end, but we can't see you.
Oh, I have my camera.
Can you see us now?
Lauren, if the camera doesn't work, they can talk without the camera and then just unpin perhaps.
Okay.
Yes. We can hear you without the camera. Is best if we can hear you clearly at least.
It's better to hear you than to see you. Bless. So would you like to introduce yourselves? I believe there's two of you. I did hear a bit of that, but go ahead.
Yeah, there's two of us. Do you want to say something?
We both study in Ireland, Dublin. So we both graduated 2 years ago from IDT, and this was our graduation film. It's premiered in Annecy, which was a complete shock. And ever since then, we've just been traveling around all over the world with it. So we are completely delighted. Yeah. And yeah, we're here now, and we'll see where it takes us, you know. The film is fully mosaic screen, which hasn't been explored that much in short film animation. So that was a huge challenge. And that was also a topic in my thesis that I wanted to explore. So yeah, we just went for it and wanted to make something kind of that made you feel very peaceful for 5 minutes. And I hope we succeeded.
You definitely succeeded. It was very, very peaceful film. It also felt very intimate, you know, focusing on the small details of the everyday. Would you like to talk us more about like your process on finding which moments to animate and like the inspiration? Because it was a very gorgeous background as well. Is it inspired by any place?
Well, yeah. So all of the places that you know are featured in the short film, they are definitely based off or heavily inspired by real places, because kind of the process that we went through with making the film, we were making it during the pandemic, so we were working you know, away from college, and we were working remotely, so we couldn't do a whole lot of traveling ourselves. And we thought it would be a fun limitation for ourselves to, since I was in charge of, you know, backgrounds and Marta was in charge of animation, particularly with the design of the spaces, we wanted to have them be from memory as we remember them, with obviously a little bit of, well, a lot of artistic embellishment, as we wanted them to feel almost dreamlike, and surreal, like they are real places, but there's just something that's, you know, a little bit uncanny about it.
It's just how we remember them, how we have them in our head. So
yeah, it was just kind of, it was about honing in on those little specific fragments of a place, of a particular memory, and then zooming in on those and kind of forgetting about everything else and all the unnecessary stuff around them, basically.
Well, the tile effect really does help, like, section out those little moments. how did you come up with what to put next to each other, and like talk us through that mosaic process, because there was obviously a lot of artistic choices going between which ones were shown and when.
Yeah, that was extremely difficult. We had a lot of ideas. We wanted to show a lot, but it was also, you know, not only did they individually have to be well composed, they had to work as a composition with one another on the screen. We wanted to fill the screen, but also have that black around. So I guess, and also we had a huge challenge of not confusing the viewer, not confusing the eye, not exhausting the eye. Like we wanted to make sure you as an audience or anyone watching knew where to look when. That was the biggest challenge for sure, because we didn't want someone to feel exhausted. We wanted someone to feel relaxed. And usually split screen or mosaic tile screen is used for quick montage scenes, you know, or like a race or something like comic book, which is, you know, used with like fast pace. So this was very much to calm someone down. So we definitely focused on the inner composition, outer composition, and also that it made, not that there's a huge narrative, but that it made the narrative sense, you know, one memory leading into another. Yeah.
Well, that's great. It definitely worked out very well in the end, because nothing was sort of overstimulating, and that was the general consensus we got from our group as well. So it was very hard to pull off, but you did a great job. There's two of you, so I'm guessing you both worked together on the animation process. Would you like to talk about your collaboration process? Who did what? What was that like for you guys?
Yeah.
Well, we were both co-directing, but we both wanted to specialize, because this was our grad film for our final year and fourth year, and we both wanted to specialize. Marta wanted to specialize in animation, and I wanted to specialize in background and layout design. And we both decided just, hey, you know, we'll make a film together. So we both ended up doing the directing side of things. But Marta took the lead on the actual physical doing of the animation, and I would do the same for backgrounds. But we were both very like
interlinked, and
yeah.
anytime I animated absolutely anything, I would immediately show it to Christian, even though he wasn't an animator. I really wanted his input, and vice versa, because we both had an eye for the other thing. And as you know, it's always good to show your film or artwork to someone who's not in art, to see if it makes sense and if it reads correctly. So I think that's what we did with each other. Like, how does this background read, and how does this animation look, you know, from someone's eye that's not specializing in it? So we very much worked well together in that sense. We were very honest with each other with the feedback.
Very collaborative process. Like it's almost very difficult to discern, you know, whose hand was exactly in what in certain shots, because it was, you know, we were very interlinked, very
50-50.
Very 50-50. It was a very collaborative process, and everything that we were doing was in service of making the film as good as it possibly could be. Yeah.
Well, that's great. It worked out very well in the end. Is there anything you guys would like to put forward about your film?
I just hope people feel relaxed during, and as someone else said, I think before us, there's a lot of very serious films out there which are phenomenal, and it's very difficult to write a great plot and narrative, but we very much wanted to experiment with something that's about nothing and just makes you feel nice. And I just really hope people get that from it. Yeah.
Well, our entire group was relaxed watching it. It was definitely the overall comment that we got when we were going through it. So you set out what you did, and you did it well. Is there any future for Small Hours? Are you putting it anywhere else?
Well, we started screening this film publicly in June of last year, in Annecy, and since then we've been to how many festivals?
Around, I think we just reached 70 festivals.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't, like, that doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is all the people that are texting, emailing us, and letting us know how they felt watching it. Because like I said before, it was such a weird experimentation that I wasn't even sure anyone would want to watch it. So
Yeah.
the fact that people are enjoying it is amazing.
Yeah. We've a few festivals in the future that it's going to go to, but we definitely think it's kind of coming to the end of its run.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and
We're
when that's
tired.
and when that's over, it'll be, well, I really want to put it up on YouTube because I want anyone to be able to just watch this on a whim and send it around, and I want it to be more accessible, because having everything behind a password and behind a link and stuff is just quite annoying, and I can't wait to just
the purpose of animation as well.
and I want anyone to be able to watch this at some point. So when the festival run is done and when all that is dried up, then yeah, it'll be up for the world to see.
Well, that's great, and we can't wait for that. But thank you very much for submitting it to our festival and letting us use it. It's been lovely having it on, and it's been lovely talking to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's great. I'm now going to hand over to Lydia. She's in charge of our YouTube questions, and we've got a couple on the go, I've been told. So, Lydia, would you like to take the stage?
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Lauren, and thank you everybody for your very interesting answers and discussion so far. I do have some questions from a very keen viewer, actually, who said how much they loved the festival selection this year. And I have a question for some of you. First one is about Juanse. And the question is, does Juanse have any filmmakers that inspire him, whether animated or not? So this is for in between.
For in between, yeah. Well, I have very much inspiration from Glen Keane. I love Glen Keane animation. I've always loved how natural his lines look. It's just amazing. So yeah, that's why I always try to make my my animation like trying to showcase the line work that is done by hand.
Okay.
It's not as good as Glen Keane, obviously, but yeah, I want to preserve this hand quality of the animation. So yeah, he is my mainly inspiration for doing animation.
Actually, I'd like to follow. This is not a question on YouTube, it's mine, but it connects with this. So I'll ask it now, actually, because I wanted to ask others towards everybody at the end to say a few things about, if you wanted, of course, about a bit more about your process, in the sense that, you know, most of your films, as I understand, I'm not an animator, but as I understand, you use computers. Now, your film, The In Between, is particularly interesting for that, because its story is about a monster, animator monster, as you said, that comes from the computer. So I was actually wondering, because the aesthetic of it, the way it looks, is very much as if it's hand-drawn. But did you actually do it on the computer, or did you do it by hand? Does it reflect your process of making it, or is it imagined? I mean, clearly you didn't have the animator person, monster itself, but you know, perhaps it's a naive question, but I'm not an animator myself, so I thought it might be interesting also for audiences who are not necessarily into the technical side of things.
Yeah, of course. I did make it on the computer just because it's easier to preview things, to change things around, to try different things. I do love hand-drawn animation on pen and paper, but yeah, it takes some time. It's a lot of processes to just check the animation. Yeah. So yeah, it was made on that computer, but I use this software TV Paint that is really, really good to emulate the hand-drawn style and feeling of working in animation. And yes, as I told you, I really, really want to keep this. Even though we work on computers, I really think that this hand-drawn element is it's so pretty to look at, and we shouldn't lose it just because we're working on computers.
Just because, of course, the doing it actually hand-drawn is so much more time-consuming. But yeah, I'll please other filmmakers get back about that in a minute. But I want to not forget about the YouTube questions. So, you know, I'll get back to you on. You can volunteer answers about the technical side. Now, my other question here is, is from YouTube, is from Debbie. Question is, I've never seen animation from Ecuador before. How is animation perceived in Ecuador? Is it a popular medium? That's interesting, actually, because we, of course, have a very global representation here. So some films are from countries that we're not so familiar in terms of their filmmaking. So, Debbie, what would you say?
Well, the animation in my country, we have not a big industry. What we have from animation here is just for maybe for publicity announcements like motion graphics and things like that. Actually, I'm working currently on motion graphics here because it's a really small industry. We don't have like the most creative animation like shorts and films and things like that, but we are growing. Like there's a lot of people that I knew here, my classmates, and also a lot of people that know how to animate. They are like trying to make this industry grow here, but yes, it's not like as big as in other countries. Yeah. I'm very happy that people got to see animation from my country, and I am
Absolutely.
representing my country.
And well done, and it's beautiful, your little piece. That's great. Thank you very much. So next one is for Resting Fog. First person who spoke here, or people rather. Nicolette, do you plan to make any other films in the style of Resting Fog, or do you plan to do something very different? Because clearly your film was quite striking and distinctive in terms of approach, and we want, I think not we. I mean the question here, and also I also have the same question as well. Would you carry on making atmospheric films, quite abstract, or are you planning to do something different?
Hogy van-e valami tervben, valami ilyesmi?
Igen, hogy szintén ilyen mentális folyamatot szeretnék majd leképezni.
És hogy micsodát?
Azt még nem tudom.
Yes, basically her next film would be is in the same style as atmospherical as it is, and she also wants to depict some kind of mental process, but she's not sure yet what the main focus should be. So not sure about the mental process itself, but the film would be with the same kind of aesthetics.
Sokkal bátrabb lennék a vizuál.
And she said she would be much more braver with the visuals this time, and with the effects.
That was pretty brave. It was very, very striking. So, presume. Actually, I forgot to ask Debbie as well. But I mean, in terms of the question I had before as well myself. So, take it you also use a computer animation program. Is that so? Because again, yours looks very different, of course, but it's very painterly. Has this quality of as if it's painting that we're watching. Have we lost them? Have I lost them? Are you there, Nicolette? Yeah. Okay, yeah. I lost the picture. So anyway, I cannot see you, but that's fine. If you hear me, that's all. That's great. So yeah, I wonder if it's anything specific you want to talk about the process, or is it just a particular program? The technical.
Technikailag, hogy
igen, ez a valóság, hogy a Máli...
Maga a technikai rész, hogy készül, de elmeséltem.
Ja, igen, ez hogy minden 2D, nem 3D.
The process, the animation process was like all is in 2D. So hand-drawn 2D, but the animation itself, so the movements are obviously visual effects. It was made in After Effects with Photoshop layers on top of each other and displacement maps.
Interesting.
Many layers. Yep.
Many layers. Yeah, but the original thing was hand-drawn. The original paintings, the original quality. No, nothing.
No. They were digitally painted.
The digital. So
yes. If you ask for the question, then yes.
Perfect. Anyway, the looks beautiful. So excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck with the next project. Yeah, I have a couple more questions. One of them is for a specific film. The other one is more open, from a different viewer this time. Hi, Alicia. I love Runner. I have worked in restaurant, and your film is really like this. Sorry, and your film is really like this. How did you make the scene so chaotic? So.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, and thank you for the question. Really, it was a matter of just being very sketchy with it and very messy with it when you're talking about the line art specifically.
Yeah.
I also just kept a constant boil. So if the characters, like the guests, were technically standing still or sitting still, they would still be boiling so much that it still felt chaotic. And also the sort of like lino print coloring that I used to sort of color the crowds. Anytime they were moving, I would do like a new print to like continue that evocation of the chaos. But yeah, thank you for the question.
That really works very nicely, actually. Very, very distinctive effect. That looks great. That's great. Right, the final question on YouTube, and of course, I just want to invite as well anybody here who might have a question for each other, because no, you're animators, you might have something particular to ask each other that we normal people don't think of. So the last question here is, do the filmmakers think animated films can be as seriously seen as live action films? Okay. I don't know what kind of seriously the question refers to, because I think certainly it can, but what do you think?
I think it's an interesting question. I think I'm not going to speak for all of us, but I think a lot of us are going to feel that, you know, it's already as serious. It has been here nearly as long, arguably considering when you think the start of animation is as long as live action. And animation is everywhere when you consider every format that animation takes, you know, with these CGI, photorealistic stuff, with stop motion, motion capture, you know, Avatar, The Way of the Water. I do understand where the question comes from, in the sense that the general public, or rather the perception of the general public, seems to not necessarily take animation seriously as a medium, but instead considering it as somewhat of a genre, which I tend to disagree with. I do think it's possible. I do think for it to be taken seriously, I think there's been a growth in backlash to how animation has been viewed, especially considering to critical reception awards and award season. And also a real hype around projects that aren't considered to be classical animation, projects that are aimed at adults that aren't necessarily raunchy comedies, projects outside of Hollywood, and other, like, you know, known hubs of animation like Japan, like the UK. And I think just keeping that momentum and really supporting films of like animated films and animated TV and short films, regardless of genre, as long as it's a good story and it's animated, you know, it deserves the spotlight, it deserves recognition. And, you know, even if we never get that sort of mainstream recognition and respect, that doesn't mean it's still not there in some sense, at least between us.
Well, thank you. That was very, very interesting question. Answer to the question, rather. That was great. Does anybody else want to volunteer an answer to this question? Actually, is everybody just agreeing with Alicia? Because I think it affects, you know, I mean, any of you, basically. Do you feel that there is a kind of perception of animation that's different than fiction films in the conventional sense? I think, in my opinion, because, and as Alicia suggested, because now the technology has progressed so much, and there's so much that's being done in animation mode, but, you know, audiences don't necessarily spot it. You know, it's kind of becomes it's kind of seamless in some ways, and you know, many of the visual effects which are effective kind of animation in some ways, you know, are often not noticeable amongst people who don't really know the technical side. So, but in terms of recognizing animation on its own terms as, you know, serious artwork and all that, I think obviously there's a long tradition that does so, but perhaps the general public, you know, has different opinions. Anyway, these are the questions from YouTube. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer an answer to the question asked before, I mean, you don't have to about the technology. If you want to add something to the technical side, the technical dimensions that you find might be interesting to the audience of this Q&A, Nicolette.
Excuse us, just it's not about the question, but unfortunately we have to go and we have to say goodbye and thank you for having us.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Anyway, we're going to close, but thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So yeah, we are about to close anyway, but I was just going to ask if anybody wanted to ask each other any questions. Otherwise, I think we will also say goodbye, but it might be an opportunity. I don't know, it's up to you. Anybody?
I have a question for Out of Order.
Okay.
Yeah, so Out of Order, first of all, lovely film.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fun ride through. But yeah, what I'm wondering is that just that scene with the creepy figure in the coffin, horrible. How did that come to be?
That's so
that was straight up. So there was like a thing there that Charlie done, and like it was quite funny. But I was like, can we just do it like some like it's because it's like just like come up with whatever.
Yeah, we just wanted something weird to come out of the coffin, but we weren't exactly sure, and you were in charge of it.
Yeah, and then I wrote like 10 different lines that the goblin could have said, and then like they all sucked, and now I hate that joke. I think that's like the worst part of the film. But
making it.
yeah, so it ended up being that, and then the lip sync like was slightly off in like one version of it.
It was very last minute as well.
Yeah,
we were on the brink of finishing the deadline, and then Harley was like, "Wait, I've got an idea." We were staying up at 5 in the morning waiting for it to come through.
So yeah, that's how that came about.
We loved your film, by the way.
Yeah, it's
it was really cool. I was a waitress myself, so I know the stress. Summer job.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, anybody else wants to either ask each other or perhaps answer the question before about if you didn't have a chance, if I didn't see you, if you wanted to say something I didn't notice and didn't give you the chance to say anything.
I might have a question for stream, if that's okay, of this stream.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love the colors and the vibe of. It's more of a technical question. How did you achieve the glowy vibe from the characters? The character, you know, how it glows like a little.
I did all the post production in After Effects, so I animated it in Photoshop, and then export in layers and add everything together in After Effects and put this effect that it's called, I think it's glow, the effect in After Effects. And also there's like a layer effect that you can choose apply directly to the layer, that it's called glow or outer glow, something like that. I have the in Spanish, but in English it's something like outer glow. That was how I achieved this glowy effect.
Thank you. I really loved your film, by the way.
So much. I also love you.
Great. Any other? I love the community to kind of grow and interact. Yes, Juanse, go for it.
Yeah, I have a question for Small Hours. First, of course, that I love the film. It really made me feel calm. You achieved that objective. Also, I love this mosaic style thing. I'm always love when I see those in screen, and I also think that it is underrepresented in animation and in other films, and has such big potential. I will love to make something like that into my films, incorporate the mosaic style, but I'm always super scared about that. So I was hoping you shed a little bit more light about the process, because you told us that you plan this to make it film calm and all those. So how much planning goes in there? Did you storyboard all the little screens? how did you choose if it was long or tall, or it was all of this done in post-production? You just play around with what you have.
Thank you so much for the lovely words.
Yeah, thank you. We loved your film as well, by the way. Like, it was phenomenally written, so well done.
Yeah, there was a nice. It was nice to see that aspect of animation being captured, you know, and then quite literally brought to life right before us. But in terms of the planning, yeah, I guess we did kind of gloss over that. To sum it up, I guess it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of trial and error. So we initially started out with it just being 50% of the screen is for one character and 50% of the screen is for the other, and it was going to just be your classic split down the middle screen. And then we really started to push it more and play around with, I guess, okay, the process started with a lot of storyboarding.
On post-it notes.
On post-it notes and on any scrap of paper, any notebook, anything, we would draw just compositions that came to mind when we thought of the individual memories. And we had a lot of memories that didn't make it to the screen. We had, you know, whole entire scenes that we cut because they just weren't working, or they were too long or too complicated or boring. So it really was just a lot of getting everything in front of us, whether it was physically or digitally. And then we spent days and hours and hours of just playing around with what compositions work next to each other and why. If we move this scene here, does it affect all the other scenes before and after it? We had a lot of animatics. There was a lot
18, I think.
Yeah, 18 or 19 animatics before we got anywhere close to what we were happy with. But I'll throw this to Marta as well, just so we can get, you know, your input as well.
Oh God. Okay. I think in terms of like giving you advice, if you are intending on doing this, something that I would love to do if I would to redo this and what I would do differently, definitely don't be scared of making the aspect ratio of every shot or every little box. Don't think, oh, it just can be square or just rectangle. Like, play with the shapes. Like, we have the car window shape of the actual window silhouette of the car, and it works so well. So I think if we were to do this again, definitely play with the shapes a lot better. There's no limitations. If you ever think, oh, this is the only thing I can do, that's always the wrong answer. There's so many ways that you can do something. So definitely don't limit yourself. Don't limit the amount of shots that there are on screen. Obviously, in terms of like guiding the viewer where to look, if you move something more or have it more contrasted or colored in a specific shot, that's where the eye goes. So you can even have 20 things happening at the same time. If you lead the eye properly, it won't be confusing. Those are pretty much the biggest tips I can give you. But so much to talk about there, but yeah.
All of it though was laid out practically with storyboards first, and then we would basically follow a rigid guide that we had set ourselves. When we were finally happy with the placement and the timing of everything, we just used that guide in After Effects then afterwards, and we animated each scene with their individual aspect ratios separately
in
Photoshop, and then we would bring those individual scenes into After Effects and then just match them up to what we had in the animatic. But yeah, you can make it as simple or as complicated as you like. Just remember that whatever it is you're doing, have it serve the story or the emotional story that you're trying to tell. Unless of course you want it for a cool gimmick just to try it out, in which case go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's really helpful. And yeah, thanks for the amazing job, because it really feels like it is carefully planned. So yeah, you did it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
That's great. Is there any other question? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up. But if anybody wants to, come in last minute, feel free. Before we then close off. But I will thank you from my side as well. Lauren probably will as well. I thought that was really exciting, really interesting. Debbie's come off and she's coming back in. Really interesting, and I hope you enjoyed sharing your expertise, your enthusiasm, your work, and I hope that our audiences have the opportunity to watch your films if they haven't already done so. Hopefully they have, but hopefully more people will also join to see them all until Friday. We're live until Friday. Audience Award is still live until 1 p.m. on Friday, and of course people can also comment and in the box underneath the films for each other's films or other people's films. So it'd be nice to see responses. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll pass you on to Lauren to say the last thank yous. But thank you so much, and this will be available on YouTube afterwards as well, so people can listen to things again.
Yeah, great. Yeah, the Q&A, it takes about 24 hours or so to put up, so keep an eye on it in the next couple of days. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to every single one of you. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an amazing turnout. Lydia,
yeah, actually, there's one more thing I forgot to say to filmmakers. Tomorrow we have, of course, the ceremony for the awards. I should remind you all to turn up. So we'll hopefully see you tomorrow as well. Some of you will get the Paperbird Awards, but in our views, you're all winners. So because the films and the selection has been amazing. So thank you so much. So see you tomorrow. But our viewers, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. And thank you very much for joining. And we'll see you all